via Zoom. You can watch it in the YouTube channel itself. And you can feel free to ask your questions in the chat if you are in the Zoom meeting. And also you can reach out to us to email us at internships@upperweststrategies.com if you are watching us via live stream. So that's it. And also I wish us good luck, and I want now to introduce our 4 amazing panelists today. So please welcome our panelists. We have Ross Lane Perlman, Chief Executive Officer, co-founder for Stratum Biosciences. We also have Sean Peterson, Senior Scientist Bioinformatician for Rumi Scientific. And we also have Muhammad Shahin, AI Strategy Lead at Pfizer. And finally, we have Nicholas Wadwitz, who is Senior Manager Analytical AI at Bristol Myers Squibb. I also want to mention that Nick is an alumnus of our program. So it's really, we are really happy to see our alumnus being really successful in their career journey. I want to stop here and ask each of our panelists to take a moment and introduce themselves and provide some information about their career path up to this point, as well as their academic background. Who wants to go first? Maybe Ross, do you want to go?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you all for hosting this panel. I think this is fantastic, and it's great to see such an amazing turnout here and so much interest in life sciences. We have a very vibrant community here in New York. I'm Ross Perlman, and I'm a dermatologist by training, now working primarily in biotech. I started off my career as a scientist, as a biology major in undergrad, and I went on directly to medical school at University of Alabama, Birmingham, where I'm from. And from there, I went on to residency at the University of Mississippi in dermatology. And I was on a quite unique track. I was on their rural dermatology track. My plan originally for my career was to be a rural dermatologist and to practice along the Gulf Coast. And you can see for everyone in the audience here that that's not what I currently do. And that's sort of how things go. But long story short, I got interested in AI and machine learning in residency when I was working with the American Academy of Dermatology on their what's called a QCDR, Qualified Clinical Data Registry. It's how CMS and Medicare and Medicaid track all of our data. I was helping them build the first large database for all dermatology. It's called DataDerm, and helping lead the machine learning approach to extracting data from charts. And that's how I got interested in AI and ML long before LLMs were really a big thing. And I took that interest with me to Northwestern, where I did two different fellowships, a cosmetic and a micrographic surgery fellowship. And I also was part of their accelerator there. Northwestern's accelerator had a lot of interest in new technology that was up and coming, and we were working on using AI to expedite prior authorizations, which are approvals you have to get from insurance companies to get drugs and sometimes procedures approved by your insurance. And I never really ended up practicing full time, and that's because there were other opportunities right after I finished my fellowship, and that's how I ended up here. I'm based out of Johnson & Johnson's accelerator, J Labs, which is in Soho, and running a company called Stratum Biosciences. And what we do is we use AI and ML to help figure out how to get drugs through the skin barrier more effectively.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Nick, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Nice to meet everybody. Thank you guys all for coming. Thank you guys for hosting. I'm excited to be here. So I guess I'll kind of start with, I started my kind of career and my academic journey in molecular biology at the University of Maryland. And then from there, I kind of made the decision, instead of going to medical school, that I wanted to get more into to technology, and specifically more of the like analytics route. I see someone saying that they went to the same program at NYU as I did. Nice to meet you as well, Rafiq. So yeah, I mean, I always had an affinity for science, but kind of like over time, I found myself, more interested in the analytical side, working with data, building tools and kind of, making sense of like complex information. And so that kind of pulled me more into a data science career. And so first I was in the research and development field, where I did a lot of things with like single cell analytics for biomarker discovery. I did a lot of like, so, structural biology, so protein structure based like drug design, was my first job out of grad school. And then, so then I worked at Regeneron to do biomarker discovery. And now I'm working at Bristol Myers Squibb, more in the commercial space. So yeah, I guess I've kind of had a lot of different experiences to this point. I've worked, in more R&D intensive environments. I've worked in agentic AI and very generative AI heavy fields. And so kind of like just learning about all these different tools and all this process, it's like kind of like a constant, phase. You're always learning new things and new tools. So I think, that's kind of like a great piece of advice that I might have for people, is that, always kind of just have that attitude to learn new things. Because I kind of went into my career path like having no computer science experience when I started grad school. So but yeah, so now I'm in the commercial space. The data is very different, but the goal is kind of, very similar. It's to understand kind of behavior, prescribing behavior, build models that kind of reflect those behaviors, and then try to help teams make better decisions to kind of eventually drive better patient outcomes. So that's kind of been my career journey to this point, from bench science to data science, and now kind of more on the, building tools and engineering systems that kind of allow for these things to take place at scale.
Thank you, Nick, for sharing your career journey. Sounds great. Mohammed, do you want to continue?
Yeah, sure. And I think from what I'm hearing, it's really fascinating, like, to hear our first two panels. I think, what I would like really to highlight, and this is very similar to me as well, is like kind of the nonlinear career growth and the career journey. I think this has become typical now, like to really like see kind of a zigzag moves or nonlinear career growth, which is I highly encourage like all of the students and undergrads and grads that are hearing us to really embrace that. So, all right, now to the introduction. Hello, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be with you all here today, and thanks very much for the invitation and for hosting this interesting session. So my name is Mohammed Shaheen. I'm an AI strategy lead within Pfizer R&D. Quick background about myself. So I'm a pharmacist by training, graduated from pharmacy school about 20 years ago. Worked as a clinical pharmacist initially, and a retail pharmacist right after graduation. And then decided to pursue my PhD and postgraduate fellowship in an area that's really like, I found it like really fascinating. It's pharmacogenomics and precision medicine. And that I did my graduate studies at University of Florida. So I'm a Gator, so go Gators if anyone from University of Florida there. And while I was at UF, I was very interested in gaining more skills in analyzing big data like genomics, metabolomics, other omics, along with clinical trial data. And because of this interest, I ended up doing another fellowship in informatics and also completed a master's degree in biomedical informatics and AI. And after finishing all this training, I just decided now it's time for me to work. So I joined Pfizer as a global clinical pharmacology lead initially, where I worked in different therapeutic areas, applied model-informed drug development strategies, to optimize dosing and improve trial efficiency and inform decision-making. And then lately, I actually, given my passion in AI and analyzing big data and all of that, I joined the portfolio and innovation group. And now, like, leading different efforts within this role as an AI strategy lead, supporting different AI projects within R&D within Pfizer. So this is in a nutshell. I'm looking forward for the discussion. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much. So with this short amount of time, we received so much information. Okay, Sean, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, my name is Sean Peterson. So I also had a very similar kind of non-traditional career path leading to AI and ML. So I did undergrad biology up in Boston College. Afterwards, I decided to go to grad school again for biology at Columbia, and I was really focused on molecular biology. My main passion was DNA repair, recombination, genome stability, all that kind of like hardcore molecular biology stuff. So I finished my PhD and then continued to do a postdoc at Sloan Kettering. Again, continue doing molecular biology and DNA repair. And then around the time of the pandemic, I was wrapping up my postdoc at MSK, and I decided I wanted to have a change and shift to industry, and just happened to interview for a position. And at the time, I didn't realize it was for a company that was a very tiny startup company. And I turned out to be basically employee number 2 or 3. Um, so that was back in 2020, and it was with Rumi Scientific. And it was kind of a big leap for me because that company was really focused on stem cell-based organoid development and using organoids to perform drug discovery, which at the time was a pretty, novel concept. So my career path up to that point was really just molecular biology. So we had a need at the company, since there was only like 3 of us, to do some really computer programming and scripting and developing machine learning models. So I took some courses online, Coursera and edX. And during the pandemic in those early days when not much was going on, and really utilized that time to teach myself and educate myself on how to do these different things. And have been continuing to learn and grow along the way. So it's definitely possible to get into this field sort of by a non-traditional pathway. Although nowadays I feel like there's a lot more formal programs that do teach this in a more formal setting. So that's obviously also a very valid way to go about it. But just because you haven't locked yourself into that career path doesn't mean that you can't transition into that later on in life. Because we are a very small startup and we use AI and ML in a very kind of specific way, I hope you guys will indulge me. I just have a few slides to kind of explain what we do and how we use AI at our company. So I was just gonna share that with you guys. Just like 2 slides. Let's see. There we go. Can you guys see the full screen or
Yeah.
the notes? The full screen, great. Okay, so what we do at Rumi is as I mentioned, we're a drug discovery company, but we use organoid derived from stem cells for various different developmental processes. So we have stem cell organoids that model very early neural development, much later neural development, where we can look at neurons and synapses. We have totally different ones that are modeling early kidney development, where we have proximal tubules and glomeruli. As well as some lung development, lung buds with bronchi and alveoli. So what we do is we micropattern these plates, 96-well plates, and we confine the growth of these stem cells onto very specific small little islands in these wells, which allows us to have super high reproducibility. So we can compare like a wild type normal versus a single gene mutation, and isolate individual organoids from those 2 different classes. So, and this feeds into AI because it allows us to generate huge databases or image banks of highly reproducible, standardized organoids. These aren't your typical free-floating organoids, but they do grow in a very stereotypical, complex manner with very well-defined tissue architecture and cell types. And so we can then use these image data banks that are either 1 of 2 classes, or we could have multiple classes, but in this case, just wild type or diseased, and then train a custom AI classifier, machine learning convolutional neural network classifier. And then that allows us then to start off with our diseased organoids and add compounds, and we can ask that classifier in an unbiased way whether that organoid now looks like it's wild type, it's been rescued, or whether it's still diseased, and whether that compound really has no effect. And the reason why AI is so important for this is because, as you can see from these images, it's a very subjective determination. Is it wild type? Is it mutant? But using AI in these machine learning tools, it allows us to give a numerical value, a probability for each of the individual organoids, which allows us to assess the ability of the compounds to rescue or not. We could also do a lot of other things with AI and machine learning, like extract so-called embedded features from the images, plot them on PCA, and so we can look at clustering and actually put a number and quantify the amount of rescue that we're getting from the different compounds. So I just wanted to give that quick overview of how we use machine learning and AI in our pipeline and how it actually is a very integral part of really everything that we do at Rumi. And all of those models and tools that we use are things that we've developed in the past few years. So thanks for indulging me with some of those pictures and images and to give a plug about our company, but happy to see where this discussion goes.
Yeah, thank you so much. Great to see what you are doing there and like all the project. And thank you for so much details. And now I want to go to more details about your career path at the intersection of AI, tech, and life sciences. And I have some questions for you. So first question I want to ask to Mohammed. So you've had a number of senior level roles at Pfizer, leading to your now serving as an AI strategy lead. So how have your prior senior level roles, as well as your academic background in pharmaceuticals and in biomedical engineering, prepared you for this intersection of life sciences and technology?
So I'm not on mute, right? Okay. Do you hear me? Zara, do you hear me? I'm sorry, just making sure. Okay, perfect. So I think, my career, at Pfizer has been very rewarding. And I would say like I learned a lot over the years. And in my role as a clinical pharmacologist and drug development has always been kind of pushing myself toward the intersection of science and technology, or in other words, towards innovation. So I'm a big fan, and really I have a significant passion towards implementing innovation in the work we do every day. So at each stage of my career, moving from pharmacist to research scientist to manager, director, and senior director, I always had the passion of really having those innovations approaches for improving the process. And over the years, I had the opportunity to lead AI-focused initiatives, from predictive modeling to document automation. Now with the large language models, this is kind of we consider it as a low-hanging fruit, and this is not a secret. I think everyone in the industry actually is trying to evaluate that. Which showed me the potential and the limitation of AI in a regulated environment like pharma environment, and made me more interested in working at the intersection of science and technology. They are like really, there's a huge potential of innovation. When you combine both the domain expertise from business along with the technology itself, and although we are talking today about AI, I think the innovation itself, just even beyond AI, within pharma, it's really fascinating. And whenever you get kind of a domain expertise along with whatever tools you're using, because AI we can consider just like as a tool, you will definitely help improve the outcome that you're targeting. Let's say we are talking about finding the right drug for the right patient. So you are going to have a significant impact on improving patient lives eventually. So I would say, really working at the intersection of biology, or the intersection of clinical pharmacology in my case, and technology has been very rewarding. And I really think that it's a very interesting area for those, like, for anyone who's interested, like really to have an impact in their career. So I'm gonna stop here if anyone in the panel would like to add more, but this would have been like my experience so far of really combining those together, the science and the technology within pharma.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. I think the point is like innovation is the key, right?
That's right. That's right.
To prepare ourselves to work with innovation and to think innovatively. Maybe this way would be the best.
Exactly. You know, you can definitely, innovation sometimes comes with uncertainties, and you need to embrace uncertainties because you don't know, like, you know, which is the right way for moving and implementing a solution using innovative method. But eventually just trying to always think outside the box, think of how can we make this better? How can we really accelerate our timelines? How can we reach our outcomes in a more efficient way?
Yeah.
Being curious about this, I think, you know, will always lead you to having an impact in your day-to-day job. So.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Yeah, talking about innovation and also thinking about the outside of the box, I want to ask Ross, as you co-founded Stratum Biosciences to build an AI-powered molecular design platform for dermatology. So can you walk us through how you went from clinical dermatology to launching a biotech company? Like,
Sure.
You did some introduction, but more
yeah, I'll give you some more details about that.
Mm-hmm.
So I happen to be at the right age where I've pretty much had access to computers my entire life, right? I remember using, you know, for example, Windows 95 when it came out. I was probably like, maybe I was like 4 or 5 years old, and I was very enthralled by the fact that they had gotten a desktop up on the screen and how different that was from the computer I had before, where you would have to, you know, insert the floppy disk and load the program. So being at that age, and certainly I would imagine most of our audience has had even mobile devices their entire life. I've had a lot of interest in how technology and software have developed, and because they've impacted me a lot, pretty much in every way, right? So not just in advances in science and medicine, but also in communication, social media, all these things they're there. And that's a lot of that has stuck with me no matter what I've been working on, right? I did not go to medical school intending to be a dermatologist. I went to medical school intending to be an orthopedic surgeon. And when I got there, I found that bones and muscles were not as exciting as I thought they would be. And, you know, that's how it goes. That's part of being a medical student, right? But there was another organ system that seemed to have pretty much everything that I was interested in kind of rolled together. I thought the immune system was pretty awesome. And I knew I wanted to do something procedural, right? I wanted some kind of surgical, hands-on ability to feel like I was fixing people. And I also I was very deeply interested in the basic science behind all these organ systems, right? So dermatology happened to have an incredibly rich up and coming pipeline of drugs that were changing the game entirely, right? So when I was in medical school, Humira, which is adalimumab, had just come onto the scene. Okay, that's a biologic, one of the earlier biologics. That's a TNF alpha inhibitor, and it completely changed management of inflammatory diseases across multiple specialties. And I knew that there was a lot in the pipeline like that, and there was a lot of a new discovery happening of all these signaling pathways that are involved in inflammatory disease and dermatology. So part of what attracted me to it was all of that rich basic science advancement that was happening. So I went into melanoma research, and that was pretty much all through medical school, and that carried me into dermatology residency. And when I was there, I was invited to work on a project by the chair at the time, and he told me that it was a special project. And I wanted to know kind of what do you mean by a special project? He was like, it's a project that doesn't end. And I was like, oh, that doesn't sound good, but okay. But it turns out that actually was like the best project that I ever worked on, because what we were trying to do is figure out ways to extract a lot of data that people were interested in for patient outcomes from charts, and pool it together with other institutions, other academic medical centers, other private practices, and build a database where everything was all tied together. And I was thinking to myself, wow, that would be really cool, because then a lot of these basic science questions that we have and questions about how all these drugs have performed, all these newer drugs have performed on the market. We could do so much post-market surveillance. We could really figure out how well everything's performing. We can help find, just like Mohammed was mentioning, we can help find that right drug for the right patient. We'll have all of that cracked within 2 years, or at least I thought. Well, it turns out that extracting unstructured data, turning unstructured data into structured data is a lot harder than I thought it was. And I'm sure a lot of you have the same experience. There was no ChatGPT at that time, of course. There was certainly no Gemini or other tools. There was the early natural language processing architecture, which was quite messy, very complex, and extremely slow and very inefficient. So we used a lot of rules-based approaches to try to get data out of charts and try to clean it and bring it into a shared database. And from there, I ended up deciding I wanted to be a micrographic surgeon after residency. Turned out that I was not going to be a rural dermatologist because my plan had kind of fallen apart for the clinic I was trying to put together, which does happen. And COVID essentially destroyed the funding for it, like many things. So when I went to Northwestern, I had this background already in big data and extracting big data and a lot of the tools for how to do that. So it only made sense that I would kind of continue working on those kind of projects. And they had a pitch competition at Northwestern when I was there. And I put a team together with the specialty pharmacy. And our team's job was to try to figure out how to build a product that would expedite prior authorization approval. And so we went through this. It's like a traditional Shark Tank sort of style competition. They pick some finalists, and then they have a big a 3-team pitch competition at the end. And our team ended up winning the funding. So we were brought into the accelerator, and there I learned a lot about the actual business side of the problem that I was trying to work on. To make a long story in there short, that was what I would consider to be kind of my first failed project. I think I learned a lot from it about how to operate. But in the background, that whole time we were working on this I was working with one of my good friends on a piece of technology to try to address how sunscreens, to try to find better sunscreen UV absorbers, right? Because we were interested in skin cancer, preventing skin cancer. And we wanted to bring some better technology to the market and use a lot of the approaches, especially machine learning approaches that I had learned about in order to try to predict which different kinds of molecules might work well as UV absorbers and importantly, which ones would not cross into the bloodstream. And I took all of that, right? So we ended up building a predictive algorithm that could tell us which scaffolds would and would not essentially cross the skin barrier, right? Because we were trying to find ones that would not. But after learning more about the market, we found out that it would be very hard to scale that up. And we ended up flipping the entire thing around, took the same technology and instead asked the question of, instead of asking what will not go through, we tried to figure out what will go through the skin barrier. And here we are now with a platform that's essentially a 3-piece AI platform that the first part of it, what it does is analyze the specific architecture of the skin disease that we're studying and how the skin barrier is unique and different and how we can take advantage of it in that disease state. So we have a tissue bank of about 200,000 biopsies that we study. And of course, we use a couple of AI pipelines to parse that. Then we feed all that data into the next module, and the next module takes those insights and helps us to generate new scaffolds. And then once we have those new scaffolds, and what I mean by scaffolds is new, essentially like the architecture for a new drug, like the functional groups, things like that, the pharmacophore, if you will. From there, what we do is we look at the formulation that will enhance the delivery the most. And so we use AI in each piece of our platform, and then we test all that lab in the loop.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It sounds like a long journey until you get to the company foundation, right? So because like we have so many different career journeys, I also want to ask Sean to share about how does a typical day look like as a senior scientist and bioinformatician at RUMI, because you already shared what you are working on. Really, we are really interested to hear details. What is your day look like?
Yeah, great. So I think what my day looks like is probably very different from what a bioinformatician at a larger pharma or biotech company will look like. So again, our company is quite small. We're about 10 people now. We were about 3 when I started. We're about 10 or 11 now. But because we are so small, I do have to wear a lot of hats. So what I do day to day is, very different. And it's part of the reason why I love the job and I love working at a small company. So for example, of course, the bulk of what I do is data analysis, developing new algorithms and pipelines, developing, oftentimes we'll have a scientist that will do an experiment. We'll get a whole mess of image data and we'll say, well, I think I see something here. How do I really focus on this aspect and not this? Or how do I quantify this that I can kind of tell I see something happening subjectively, but I don't really know how to quantify it. So a lot of it is working individually with, the scientists, or I guess you would call them project managers for the different projects, and really getting at what it is that they're trying to do and how can we do that efficiently, either using an ML or a CNN or, more traditional techniques. So it's a lot of development and troubleshooting, but that's maybe about 50% of the job. About 50% of the job is doing things like setting up new computers, getting our server functional and backing up to AWS, doing a lot of IT things, ordering stuff, like all the different day-to-day functions that have to get done for a small company, have to get done by somebody. So in that way, it is exciting as well because I'm expanding sort of my knowledge base for other areas that I wouldn't normally really be exposed to, which is exciting, but it could also be a little bit stressful because you don't really feel like you're an expert in a lot of the things that you end up having to do. So if you are someone who likes a challenge like that and sort of enjoys putting yourself out there to learn new things, but also to sort of make yourself be in a slightly uncomfortable position, definitely a smaller company would be a good fit for you, I think. But really the meat and potatoes of what I do is, like I said, is thinking about problems and how to solve problems, that analytical problems.
Thank you so much for sharing. It's like wearing so many hats at the same times. It's not easy, but as you said, a lot of things to learn. I also want to ask Nick, because we have so many students here, especially from our program. As a LifeSci NYC Internship program alumnus, how did the program help shape your career path to your current role as a senior manager in BMS?
Yeah, sure. So, as I mentioned earlier, I kind of started when I was at grad school at NYU. I was much more focused on the research and development side of things. And so with the NYC internship program, you guys helped me kind of get an opportunity to work with, I imagine a startup that's probably similar in size to what Sean works, or like maybe at least when you got there. So the first day when I walked in the door, there's probably like 3 or 4 people there. And one of them was a CEO who was on the phone the whole day. And so it was like a really small incubator program where there was like biotechs all scattered throughout, like essentially different laboratories on a university floor. But anyways, kind of like what I got the opportunity to do there was to leverage a lot of the information I've been learning from college, or at college, well, rather my master's at NYU, and kind of put it into practice. And so at NYU, I kind of took like a computational biology focus, where I was taking classes in bioinformatics, computer-aided drug design, protein engineering. And essentially, through this internship program, I just got to kind of explore and, essentially design experiments and see how they would work. And the company I was working for then was more working with microorganisms for a biomaterial startup. And so understanding like the composition and the makeup and, trying to genetically engineer microbes to kind of have more efficient processes was big for them. So I got to try out, different genetic engineering experiments, computer-aided protein design to see if we could create a genetic engineering, simulation that might have a protein that might fold in a different way. And then, so that experience kind of, I think, got me into my next internship, where I kind of had a little bit of some programming background. I understood like the three-dimensional structure of proteins, how to design drugs, and that company was actually run by my professor at NYU. I don't know if any of the NYU people there know Tim or Dr. Cardozo, but he essentially had a startup that spun out of his lab at NYU School of Medicine. And we were working with the NIH, we were working with AbbVie on a couple of different drug discovery programs. And so there I got another, small company experience where I got to, some days I was working as a project manager, like dealing with, client interfacing roles. And other days I was, spinning up a notebook and doing, single cell analysis in R. And then, other days had 3D, protein modeling softwares up trying to rationally design drugs and, build, simulations to run molecular dynamics to get energy calculations to decide whether we thought a candidate might be a good drug. And so, a lot of that was very speculative work. So, as there's been a little bit of a wave in pharma, at least, that had kind of like killed a lot of those contracts. So from there, I ended up moving into Regeneron, where I did biomarker discovery. For the most part, I also did some stuff with clinical and some evaluating of different assets in the market that the company was interested in acquiring. And from there, I took a job at a consulting firm where I did a lot of work. So I guess just I would say that the internship program here kind of gave me that like basic like opportunity to kind of start exploring things and to kind of really start to like dig my heels into like having more of a like experimental design and A/B testing, problem solving, and doing that kind of like as a lead in the internship I was able to get through them. So that's kind of it was a lot of the fun, like the building blocks of how I got to where I am.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Nick. It's always I'm always happy to hear that our program helps to get the first hands-on experience and then to go from there, and it's always great. So now I want to ask a little bit, looking into the future, what kind of entry-level skills to develop. So since many of you don't have that tech degree, what classes and skills do you recommend that students can take and learn to prepare themselves for the workforce as AI becomes more and more pervasive, and any advice would be helpful. Anyone can answer this question. And I want to pause here just to remind that we are going to open our Q&A pretty soon, and you can send your questions in the chat. If you are watching us through a YouTube live stream, you can also send us your questions using our internships at upperweststrategies.com email. So please, who wants to reply to this question?
So sorry, I think one of the things that's a bit challenging the time that we're currently living is like you have plenty of sources and plenty of courses, and so my advice, to the audience here, really select just a track, just like you have a lot of courses online, EDX, Harvard, MIT, you name it, right? Just select one. Don't just like keep saving all of those for one day to go through them. Just select one and start. So really act fast and just select one and start working on it. Regardless, I think you can see reviews from people. I wouldn't really recommend a particular. I may have like my favorite courses. I would say like go and do it. But those hands-on trainings, for instance, those courses that allow you like to really go and do something yourself also have a significant impact, I would say, on implementing this on your day-to-day job or day-to-day projects. So my advice is like, select one and start. If you are really passionate about this field, would like to get more, more information and more knowledge in this space. I will leave it for the other panelists if they would like to recommend a particular course, but.
Thank you for great advice. I think this is really important. Now there's so much distraction, right? And sometimes we can lose our focus.
100%.
I think that right now the value of technical skills is becoming lesser overall, as they are being more democratized and more tools become available that are easier for more people to use. For example, I have no foundation in computer science at all, but I basically taught myself Python, and I certainly used plenty of LLMs to help me develop our platform in the early stages before we had a chief technical officer and people with a lot more skill and experience than me. But I think that the most important skills for you to develop in the early part of your career, I don't think it matters very much what you study. And I don't think the courses that you take probably are going to have a big impact on your trajectory. I think what matters is your soft skills, your ability to communicate and work on a team. I think that is extremely rare, actually, to have individuals who are truly good communicators and can establish a connection with team members very quickly, or establish connection with a colleague, and be able to just talk to you, as a human, and understand that you're communicating to someone that what they're doing is valuable, and respectfully give feedback. These sorts of things are very difficult to do actually in a professional setting. So how do you learn those things? Well, you learn by talking to more people, go to events, put yourself out there, even if you're not an extrovert, that's okay. You can learn how to be a better communicator.
Yeah, so like soft skills also are important, like developing, not only technical ones.
Yeah, well, just to kind of echo what these guys said a little bit, there's tons of great resources out there. The courses that I always fell back to were the deeplearning.ai courses. A lot of them are free on that website, but then there's also some ones that are more intensive in Coursera. So I think they're very well structured and put together. But honestly, anything you do to just start learning and programming and building projects, I think what you really want to get to the point is where you're building projects that are geared towards whatever career you want to get into, so that whenever you go into an interview, you have something you can talk about, defend it from a business case. And that also kind of talks a little about what Ross is saying, is that's also very important. You need to have those communication skills to articulate why what you're doing, which is a data science project, to most people that's going to be a very abstract case. So being able to kind of use visuals and give a good story about why things are the way they are, and kind of give your whole, because a lot of data science analytics is it's a little bit of an art. So some of it is you're trying to essentially use your you're kind of coming up with theories and theses, and you're kind of trying to explain those to people, and so that's a very important part of the job as well. And then also just getting along with coworkers, because there's always somebody that knows something that you don't, and vice versa. And so it's really great to be able to kind of collaborate with teammates. I've learned so much that way. And so, yeah, I think that, those are just kind of, great resources. But yeah, there's one thing I could say is get a couple good projects in your portfolio that you understand extremely well and you can back up in an interview.
Thank you so much, Nick. Ross, maybe you can share some entrepreneurship resources, but maybe that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that the best way to learn entrepreneurship is to work with a mentor that you like and trust. Now, finding a mentor is not always super easy, but you have to, again, you need to, if you don't have one immediately available to you, learn to use all your resources to their greatest extent. Go to the entrepreneur in residence at your college and talk to them. They will certainly put you in contact with people that can help you. When it comes to the actual skills of being an entrepreneur, I think the most important thing is to learn to understand, just like Nick was saying, learn to tell a story, learn to take something that's complex and see what's subtle about it and understand it and make it simple to understand. And that is super, super hard. We have spent thousands of hours trying to find better ways to explain to people how our platform works. Our platform is incredibly technically complex, but it is not, you will not get a single dime of fundraising. You will not get a single partner until you figure out how to show people that it makes sense, that we actually have logic to how the platform flows and why it's set up the way it is. And telling it like a story makes it much easier to understand. And I think that that's probably one of the most important and hardest things to learn. But yeah, so if you're looking for resources, start with your entrepreneur in residence. Certainly look to accelerators. They make a lot of good resources available. So not just J Labs, of course, and Johnson & Johnson's accelerator like we have here. There are less formal education modules available that are public. For example, Y Combinator has great online resources to understand kind of just how to think about problems and solutions. I read all of those. And then also look for, there's a video series on YouTube that you can find if you just search customer discovery video series. I forget immediately who the host of that is, but if you can learn to talk to people and ask them and understand what their problems are, then you'll be well on your way to using your technical skills to help people solve their problems.
Thank you so much information. So I would also suggest to take notes when you hear our panelists. But because we have already some questions in the chat and also we are limited in terms of time, I will just open up the Q&A part and ask questions to our panelists. So the first question that I see in the chat is this one. It's a little bit technical. When implementing automation changes within the AI ML algorithms, is the workflow for developing possible changes more agile like or waterfall based? So anyone can answer this question? Okay, so it's, as I said, it is more technical question. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we don't really use either of those frameworks, but it would be much closer to agile for us, iterative and focused on what people are asking us to work on, because our platform, just speaking from my own perspective, was in a lot of ways built in bits and pieces to answer a lot of the modules were built to answer specific questions that co-development partners brought to us. So it would be much more like an agile type workflow than a linear type of waterfall.
Okay, thank you so much.
And I would say as well, like, for us, we work with the vendors or work like, with our digital teams, like for building that. So I'm more in the strategic part, like strategic, group who like really put the strategy for implementing a solution. But we also work on for big projects and that will have a lot of different function lines and teams. We work with the agile model as well for those.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I like the next question. Do the panelists think that AI coding is becoming a secondary skill that allows medical experts to develop tools for making their primary jobs more efficient, or are they hiring AI programmers and working with them? That's a great question. Maybe Mohammed, you would like to answer this?
Yeah, I'm trying to digest it. AI coding is becoming a secondary skill that allows me for making the primary. The programmers are working. So I think vibe coding now is really changing the game, I would say. And if I spent like really weeks and months in the past, just like, to learn a particular coding program, I would say I would now actually rely on AI, to be honest, like, for completing a lot of the different AI coding exercises that I may be interested in. So I think as a skill, I would be interested in really understanding how to use this to complete the job rather than so it's kind of secondary skill, I would say, right now, based on the capability that we are seeing, rather than kind of a primary skill that we are looking at. Because I can tell you, like, I spent 6 months in the past writing a code for a predictive model in an oncology space. When large language models came in 2022, I just tried to do a quick exercise. And at that time, I can tell you, I think in the beginning of 2022, it was bad. I think, looking at some of the large language models, like, I have been like trying with them almost for maybe like 6 hours or so, just like to fix some codes. But now they are way better. I finished the 6 months code that I wrote, generate the same thing in a couple of hours. And it was like really reproducible. So that can tell you that, you just train yourself how to do vibe coding, how to understand, I think asking the right question is more important, to be honest, rather than learning coding at this stage, because I feel like coding, with the evolution that we are seeing in AI, most likely this is just gonna be will not require the same time and effort like for learning compared to what we used to do in the past to learn a particular coding language. So hopefully that addressed that question. Ross, please. Yeah.
Exactly that. So yeah, you need to learn to think about what tools are available, and like if you want to be a professional vibe coder, or if you think that would be helpful for you, if you want it to be a secondary skill, doesn't matter. If you understand what the tools are that are available, what is in the stack, right? Like what computational tools you have available to you, what programming frameworks will allow you to get a job done better, then you are going to be able to direct these LLMs much better and much more efficiently than everyone else. Okay, I can tell you that from the time when I started working with LLMs to now, I mean, now I don't give generic directions to Gemini. I tell it specifically, I want you to use this stack, I want you to write this code, I want you to structure it this way, and then I want you to use, for this data set, I want you to write this using R. And bam, there, that's exactly what I wanted, right? So I didn't waste a bunch of time getting a bunch of garbage output and having to sift through all of it. So using these LLMs is its own skill for sure, and it is not distributed equally. And the more you work with them, the better you will get. But you need to be learning from them too. Don't forget to learn from them, because they will output useful things. You need to cross-check them.
100%.
Yeah, no, sorry, go ahead.
You want to add on?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I would think that like where the coding is still important. I think you have to know how to like read code very well and understand what's going on so that you can, want to make sure you're not making errors. Also, whenever you start working with like extremely large pipelines where there's, thousands of, like files and all kinds of different things going on, then understanding how like these types of data pipelines are put together is extremely important from like a software engineering, data engineering perspective. And I think that's kind of like so just like actually writing the code is much easier now. You don't need to spend, I would say, like learning Python on a super high level is probably not a great use of your time. But like understanding how to read code and understanding how to put the pieces together to build larger like data pipelines and such, because it seems like the market is heading in that way where they really want data scientists these days to be a little more of a full stack position where you kind of understand a little bit more of the software engineering component of things, not just the analytics. So that's would be my advice, to kind of more learn about like the the architectures and how to put things together rather than the the nitty gritty.
Thank you for replying. We have so many questions, so we will not be able to address all of them, of course. But I will pick a few, and please give very brief answer. One question. I really relate to your experiences, as I'm currently navigating to the transition from science to tech myself. Given the current market, do you have any suggestions for connecting with professionals behind LinkedIn messages, which often get overlooked? any tips?
Go to
Yeah,
in-person.
no, sorry, go
Oh,
ahead.
please go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like my recent experience, I tried to go to networking events, career fairs, things like that. But honestly, it's a little bit of a numbers game. Like I probably in the past have hit like 50 to 100 people up on LinkedIn whenever I was looking for jobs and that sort of thing. Maybe only you get like 5 to 10% of those people actually respond and have meetings with you. I tend to see it's a little bit higher than that. But I would say like just reach out to as many people as you can. It is a little bit of a numbers game in my experience. But getting into in-person networking events is definitely the best way to go.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Go to as many events as you can, and make sure that you are always looking for those opportunities to go to conferences and things like that, because that's where you're going to get the opportunity to really get in front of someone and make an impression. And then be sure that you learn how to seal the communication loop. Okay. So don't just shake hands with someone and say, cool, yeah, I'll reach out to you, whatever. Make sure you know how to reach out to them. You've established that before you've finished the interaction, and that you have a plan and you've told them the plan. I'm going to email you at this email or whatever. And then you do that.
Perfect. Thank you. So we have one question from live stream, those who watch us live stream. So I want to be fair and read that question. How do you stay up to date with the fast-paced changes in AI, and how do you adapt to new updates in the field? Someone wants to answer?
So that's really very challenging. I would admit. With and I can tell you actually, and then I expect the same thing for everyone on the call here. The pace, like when I was working as a clinical pharmacologist and moved to like kind of an AI strategy role, the pace and the amount of work is totally different. Like so it's not even like having the time really like to catch up. But one of the things that I'm trying to do, is really trying to have an hour kind of very early morning before starting, just like to quickly skim through the kind of the latest and the greatest in the field. I try to do that like if I'm very, very busy, just like once a week, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to capture it. And I'm following a lot of people on LinkedIn as well that I consider as kind of pioneers in the field, which always like kind of highlight the things that I need to focus on within this hour. So just like to read more about, this new algorithm or this agentic workflow that have been implemented for this particular application. So this is the way that I have been doing it, but I admit it's not an easy task. So.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, because we are already on time, I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and thank to our wonderful panelists. We had so much insightful information, and we hope that our students, they will use this information and build their successful pathway from their own. So thank you one more time, and I wish you to have a great continuation of the week, and have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all very much.
Bye.